I just wanted to know more about building and funding affordable housing and the various options.
So one thing that I would really like to do as supervisor is to actually empower unincorporated residents to create affordable housing themselves. So a couple options there are, number one, Marin has pioneered something known as junior second units. There are about 30,000 under-occupied bedrooms in the 5th district. This means you've got a single person or maybe a couple living in, say, a 3 or 4 bedroom house. Marin has allowed homeowners, because septics and water use are based on the number of bedrooms, to drop in a wall, add a kitchenette, pop out an additional entrance or exit, and then essentially suddenly you have a duplex where before you had only a single family home. So we could facilitate this process through a county ordinance. Another option is what Santa Cruz has done, which is to basically encourage and incentivize the creation of granny units where it's already zoned for them. So Santa Cruz said, rather than having to hire your own architect and come up with your own designs and pay $60,000, which is what it currently costs at the county, how can you build affordable housing if it's $60,000 before you get a shovel in the ground to build a granny unit? So what we could do is we could actually have pre-approved designs. So you come in and you pick option A, B, or C, you reduce the cost, and you help homeowners make that investment. One thing to be clear, there would need to be an enforceable clause to prevent this from turning into vacation rentals and Airbnbs, and there would need to be a funding mechanism to enforce that. Those are a couple of ideas. If I were going to ask the voters for any kind of a tax right now, it would be something to fund affordable housing, because we've lost a lot of the tax credits through the state that really used to provide the tax credits that people like Burbank Housing relied upon. So we have a tremendous lack of funding for affordable housing. And the sort of boomerang R&R funds are drying up that were left over from the redevelopment agency days. And so if I were going to ask you all for anything, it would be to create an affordable housing district that could operate in parallel to the agricultural preservation and open space district to actually take this on as a priority. This is what Silicon Valley did, and they've actually been able to do all kinds of innovative things. Not just build affordable housing, but actually provide that kind of missing middle of subsidies. We have people right now who are on poverty wages, who refuse to take raises, because if they take a raise, they will lose their subsidized housing and they will lose their subsidized childcare. We have trapped human beings in poverty, and with the cost of living in Sonoma County, it's just unacceptable. So something like an affordable housing district could provide that kind of subsidy for the missing middle to help people, get out of poverty while still providing subsidies to, transition and help them pay rents. It can also provide, sort of low-cost loans for houses that would sort of, make some housing stock affordable for people for whom it otherwise might not, and then could also actually purchase property to create possibly new mobile home parks or new affordable housing developments that are sort of, again, more affordable because the property is owned by the county. So that's an idea, but it's a reach for sure, and it's a big ask of the voters. But we have before stepped up and said this is something that matters. And when we did that, that was the Agricultural Preservation and Open Space District. Maybe as a community, we need to step up and say we can't be the playground for the wealthy anymore. So.
Thank you for the question. It's something we could spend a lot of time talking about. We actually have a lot of tools at our disposal. And I want to talk about two different things. There's affordable housing and there's workforce housing. Affordable housing has a specific definition in California law. It's affordable to low-income and very low-income families as measured by the federal poverty level. Workforce housing is housing that is generally available and affordable to people who actually work here, like teachers, firefighters, police officers, what we would consider the middle class. So with respect to affordable housing, we have a tool that government has had for many, many years, but it's recently been challenged in the courts by real estate owners and developers. It's called inclusionary zoning. Not a very sexy name, not real exciting, but what it means is for every residential development, it must include a certain number of affordable units on site. And the purpose of that inclusionary requirement is to prevent creating economically disparate neighborhoods. So we don't want economic segregation. We're all one community. So this requirement of including the affordable units on site meets a couple of different goals. One in particular is it actually gets the affordable units built. Another way we can enhance that requirement, and by the way, there was just recently a Supreme Court decision in the state of California that says, yes, in fact, cities and counties do have the authority to impose this mandate. So we need to be able to do it. It just requires the political will to do that. And this is something that when I was in local government for many, many years, I fought over and over and over again to preserve that for the city of Santa Rosa. The other thing that we can do is enhance that rule by requiring commercial development of a certain size to also include affordable housing units. It's also called mixed use or live work, and it's done in lots of other communities. A third thing I think we need to do is really encourage urban-centered development, because by its very nature, housing that is built with services already around it and transportation available is much more affordable. Now, with respect to workforce housing, again, we need housing from emergency shelters up to workforce housing at all levels. And every single need is in crisis right now. So I mentioned that I have this proposal to take part of Sonoma County's $2.3 billion in pension assets and actually use them to develop workforce housing. It doesn't work for affordable housing because you need a rate of return on your pension investments. It works for workforce housing because that is market rate housing, but it's designed to be affordable to people who already work here and would like to live here. So let's use our taxpayer money. Let's use it to benefit our communities so we will have places for our children to live.
We agree on so much that when we don't agree, I think it's important to draw the distinction. So inclusionary housing is something that I also support, but it is not going to help us because we have very few developable parcels left in unincorporated Sonoma County. And by the way, it's actually already county policy. But the other thing is that inclusionary housing is predicated on development. So in order to get 1 unit of affordable housing, you have to develop 6 or 7 market rate units. So it's not going to really sort of solve our affordable housing crisis, which is why I think we need to sort of move beyond just that, which the county is already doing. Number 2, I think that it's actually very dangerous to invest our pension plan into workforce housing. And it's actually not really even legal per SCARA's bylaws, which basically states that you need to take the highest return possible and you also need to minimize risk. The reason that there's no workforce housing in Sonoma County is because it doesn't make money. It doesn't pencil out. And the pension plan, the whole pension system, is currently predicated on a 7.25 return on investment. You cannot get a 7.25% return on investment in any kind of affordable or workforce housing. And in fact, sometimes workforce housing actually makes less money because it's not eligible for the tax credits and the subsidies that affordable housing is. So basically, every time we don't hit 7.25% ROI on the pension, the taxpayers are on the hook for tens of millions more dollars. So I do not want to, as great as it sounds, when you look into it, it will actually cost the taxpayers money or it will create really unaffordable housing. If you want a 7.25% ROI, you're going to wind up charging $4,000 a month for an apartment unit, which is not affordable. So
A couple of points to respond on that. The 7.25% ROI is an average. Some investments make more, some investments make less. If you know anything about the fundamentals of investment, a higher rate of return reflects a higher risk. So you can't possibly have your entire portfolio invested on one end of that high risk spectrum. It just doesn't work under fiduciary rules. This is being done in lots of other communities. And the SCARA board, the Sonoma County Employees Retirement Association, half the members are appointed by the Board of Supervisors and their rules and regulations are regulated by the Board of Supervisors. So this can be done. I also want to mention the junior second units and the second dwelling units idea. They're part of a diversified response to our affordable housing crisis. But honestly, I don't think we're going to solve this crisis on the backs of the individual homeowner. For one thing, if you build a second unit, your taxes are going to go way up. So it's really nice to have granny units and second units, but I don't think they're going to solve the problem.